Mzansi, Happy New Year, and as far as 2025, and it's GameON. I'm Caesar Mapena, and we are carrying on from where we left off at the end of last year. Plenty to talk about, of course, and start off the show, as we usually do, with Shane McGregor, but something a little new for you that we'll be giving you this year. We'll also be covering the Bundesliga. So, Shane, let's talk about it. The football out in Germany always gives us a lot to talk about, especially from a Bayern Munich point of view. Vincent Kompany out there, and well, they're getting business done with Kompany, a young manager, and with some rather entertaining players with the likes of Musiala helping them with a 5-1 win over Leipzig.
Yeah, you know, they obviously top of the log and gained well. Got some of the best strikers there. You got Kane there, you got Musiala scoring goals.
Talent in Germany, yeah?
Yeah, Musiala's a decent player. I mean, we all saw in Europe, European champs, how good he was. And they just seem to keep on working and keep on going. You know, last year was a bad year for them. They didn't basically win the league. And for Bayern, that's a no-no. You've got to be league winners, otherwise you're in trouble. But they are going well this season, top of the log. Couple of points clear, but it's not over yet. It's a long way to go.
I have to ask you, we all know Kompany, the player, with Belgium, with City for a long time in his career. We know of Kompany, especially as South Africans, the coach out in England last year, and how he won how well he did in the championship and tried to take the football into the top flight of English football. It didn't quite work out for him. Did you expect him, firstly, to move to Germany with that signing, and also to be as dominant as he has been, as young as he is as a coach?
Yeah, you know, I didn't expect him to go to a big club like Bayern.
Yeah.
I must be honest with you. I liked his work ethic, and I liked the way he had the guys playing in England at Burnley. You know, he stuck to his guns. He didn't say yes or no as right or wrong. He still stuck to his guns, played attractive football, and he's actually become a good link with Bayern, because they play a very similar way of the way he was thinking. You know, so I think the management looked at this and thought, well, let's give him a shot, you know, give him a chance and see what happens. And it's worked wonders for them. He does like to play that, the keeping the ball, knocking around, getting behind players, crosses in, but he does like to keep the ball. And that's what Bayern like to play, and that's how they like to play. They've got an identity, and they've kept it, which is a good thing.
Well, there's one side that certainly had us talking last year. That was Leverkusen, and they're trying to give us pretty much the same quality as last season. They come up against Freiburg, smash them 5. The quality sides really do find the back of the net out in Germany, yeah?
Yeah, and they score a lot of goals. That's one thing about the German league, is there are big goals in it. But, you know, we know them from last season, Leverkusen. You know, they were different class. They went through the season and thumped teams, and everyone thought, it's going to stop sooner or later, it's going to stop. And, you know, they just kept on winning games, kept on going. They've done it more or less the same this season. There have been a few little upsets along the way, but they're still right up there, second on the log, and going well. And they're still sticking to the guns. They play exactly the same way, which I like. You know, if a manager comes in or coach comes in and he sets his way, and the players give him a buy-in, it makes a big difference. And that's what's happened there. You know, they all bought into the way he coaches, the way he goes, Alonso, and the way everything else goes. I like it, and he's a good manager. He'll be, and not that Bayern aren't a big club, but by Leverkusen, he'll be at a big club very, very soon. When I say a big club, either in UK, Spain, or somewhere like that, he will be moving on in the near future.
Now, Bayern Munich, as you expect, 4-point lead at the top over Leverkusen, as you just say. But it's the chasing pack behind those two that I find rather interesting, especially for Leipzig, who are currently at a 4th spot behind Eintracht. Leipzig have an interesting project for those of you that are interested in what's happening behind the scenes and how a club just keeps building and finding young talents to compete with the very best.
Red Bull. Behind them.
Lovely project.
We all know now that that's where Klopp has gone. He's got involved in all the clubs. They're not just in Germany. They've got 2 clubs in Germany. They've got a club in America. They've got clubs all over the place. And he's taken on that project. But you're right. They seem to be the club that always brings the players through, sell them on. And unfortunately, they sell them on. You know, you're not going to win the league by doing that.
Yeah.
You know, you can't keep on producing and then sell. So that is the thing. But if you look at the league, going back to the league, if you look at those after the first 2, it's very, very tight there. There's a very, very small difference in points, and it's very tight. And that's what I like about the German league as such. It's a very tight, very competitive league overall. You know, not like in UK where you got maybe 4 or 5 teams that are way ahead. and the others are way down. There it's very, very tight at the top.
Yeah, the top 10 it certainly is. I was looking for Dortmund, a little worried when I saw them at 6th spot, but then when I look at the points and the difference, they're not too far behind. But Dortmund, I think everyone's favorite underdog out of Germany, for those of us that have kept tabs with them over the last 15, 20 years.
Very good team.
Yeah. Lovely crowd as well.
Yeah, the
It's
crowd is
stadium,
brilliant.
yeah.
I mean, when you go to that stadium, that is their 12th player. I mean, it is brilliant. And if you've never been and you've never seen it, it is brilliant for the game, you know. The one thing about them is they've also got that doggedness. I think the last game they had a player sent off and they still got the victory, which is, you know, that just shows exactly where they are. But for me, yeah, they're always one of those teams that you've got to look out for. They'll always be there and thereabouts come the end of the season.
It's interesting when you look at a Harry Kane situation. I was talking to him for so long. Signs at Bayern, for me, extremely late in his career.
Yeah.
And Jerry is still top goal scorer out in Germany, and I'm looking for that German star striker. Like they've given us over the years, your Müllers, your Wollers, there's many others, Klinsmann and so on, over the years. But when you think back the last 10 years, there isn't a great German striker to speak of.
Yeah.
Harry Kane's rocking things out there.
Yeah, the German strikers are far and few between. You know, you look at that, but you've got to look at Harry Kane. 5 of his goals come from the penalty spot. So he takes the penalties as well. So you've got to remember that. I think they got one in Bayern, but they don't play him as a striker, Musiala. He scores a lot of goals, and he will score a lot of goals. He's very dangerous. But you're right, those old strikers, the Klinsmanns of the world, and those type of players, Germany haven't seemed to be able to produce that of late, and that's a big worry for me, is that they have to rely on foreign talents, and especially Bayern. They've been doing that for the last few years.
Is it part of the cultural change we've seen with German football, where for those of us that have watched it from the 80s and so on, very German, and you know, we used to like joking as friends that they play 90-degree angles and so on, where you cross and so on. But over the last 10 years, there's a mix in Germany where you're seeing players like Musiala coming through, Kluivert, and the different play style and expression is very different now.
It's different to what it was then, but if you look at world football, it's completely changed. The whole football way of playing has completely changed. I mean, many years ago, the Italians used to do that, and now they're not doing it anymore, you know, so everything has changed. It's gone better, I think. People are watching more games, they're picking up, they film more games, they see exactly how the opponent plays. They can tell you how long he's run, what he's done, the yardage he's done, the passes he's made. And, you know, it's become very, very technical nowadays. So they've all had to adjust and grow with it. And unfortunately, with that, strikers around the world have been struggling. And that's the big thing.
Well, they certainly have been, but I tell you what, they haven't been struggling out in Germany in as far as entertaining us, and we'll be hoping going into the second half of the season they continue to entertain us as we look to keep up with who's running things at the top. Currently it's a company, but will someone be able to make it a tough first season out in Germany for Visit Company? That's the question. On the other side of this, Shane stays with me. We talk about, well, what's been going on in South African football so far. From before the season started, coaches have been coming in and out. Before the season started, it's continued right through the first half of the 24-25 season. Stay with us.
Wanna bet?
You are on.
Breaking news. Gogo takes her Brian's challenge to a penalty shootout.
Aziz again.
Let's go.
Brian looks confident here. What? He's completely missed it. Here comes Gogo. And what a kick! She's done it! She's done the impossible! Hollywoodbets, Azisheke, let's play.
Welcome back to GameON. Now, so far, it's been a rather interesting 2024-25 PSL season with the coaching merry-go-round that started in the off-season. The coaches were hired and fired before a ball was kicked. But the big talking point, Listen Martin, makes a big return to the top flight of South African football and comes back with a bang and winning the Carling Cup with Makesi, a club we didn't know. It's been a couple of major hitters, and he's gone.
Yeah, gone. You know, he resigned, which is the norm now on TV by the look at it with coaches. Go on TV
There's
and
a
resign
few now. I
and
can
walk
think of
away.
3 at the top of my head, yeah.
I'm very clever in doing. I think it's very clever in doing that. Number one, you're putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
To
Everybody
the
knows you're
public.
available.
Everybody knows you're available. And number two is showing you that it's not the so-called amicable agreement that you're walking away. It's you walking away from the club. I think he's clever in doing it. I think he's taken that club as far as he possibly can. He's seen what the players he's got. He's not going to be, they're not going to be bringing players in. He's seen what he can do with those players, and I think he's seen the writing on the wall. And he thought to himself, my reputation, let me move on. But I'm going to say this with a big but. Watch this space. I don't think he'll be clubless for very long.
I believe that may very well be the case, because I was going to bring up, last in Bloemfontein. It wasn't the greatest club in South African football, but it was one that had a lot of history and great respect. It was there for a good number of years, and did well to come back and remind us that he actually exists now.
Exactly.
He had a great time out in the Free State.
Yeah, very good. You know, he did well. He won he put one over Sundowns there as well. So you know, we all know about that.
Let's move on and talk about the side last in beat in, of course, that memorable final, Mamelodi Sundowns, in closing out last year. But Sundowns have had this period, I'd like to think, from when Peter Musimani took over, and they started to form the structure. And I remember, started bringing some stars over to Sundowns. Kamap Elliott, for one, he said to Kamap Elliott, listen, if you want to win the Champions League, come. This is where we're going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And bringing some of the best clubs, best players from clubs around the country. And they did that. They played some of the best football on the continent with some of the best clubs, and did that for a good number of years after Pito and up until recently. Are we at the end of an era from a South African coaching point of view where we've seen something we may never see again, that not only saw Sundowns against the very best, Al Ahly, right there with the very best, but also reflected on the national team as well?
Well, you know, you look at it, Pitts had a vision, and he actually brought it to fruition there. You know, he had a good team, he worked on it, he built a team, and they built everything up right, you know, and the South African coaches followed straight after that. Now, all of a sudden, we've got a foreign coach in there. I think the question you're trying to say is that going to be a legacy that we're not going to live up to? My biggest thing in this country is we're not appointing enough of our local coaches. We're giving the opportunity to foreign coaches. Yeah, there are times that you need it, but some of these coaches that we are bringing in are actually not good enough. We've got better coaches in this country. So I think that we should be giving our local coaches more of an opportunity. They gave it to a Pizza, and look what happened. Look at Sundowns, dominant. Look where they are.
The fans demanded
They've changed the whole thing around for South African football. Look at Bafana. It's all Sundowns doing. So, you know, it's something that we need to look at in a long-term passion, you know.
There's also very many now teams that are looking at former players. I mean, not too long ago, I remember commentating games with the likes of Vilagazi, who's now at Amazon, with Altas Wadi, commentating games with they were players. And here they are now as coaches and looking to bring forth the South African way of football and a proudly South African brand of football that can be appreciated throughout the continent. Your thoughts on this new way? I mean, Kenyeza was also another coach. There's many to speak of, Zafani.
Yeah, that's what I say. We've got to give our coaches a chance and stop bringing in the foreign guys that are only here for the money. Not every player makes a good coach. We all know that. And
I mean, me here.
and Zwani are decent coaches, and good luck to them. I just don't like this co-coaching. I really don't like it. I don't think it works. Look, it's working at the moment for them there. But for me, it's you need one that's going to make the final decision. But anyway, that's beside the point. But let's hope they do well. They have turned it around at Amazulu in a short space of time. But we all know Amazulu. The coaching changes on how they go, you know. As soon as they hit a snag, instead of sticking with them and giving the opportunity to fix it, what do? They get rid of them and bring in new coaching. And that's my only worry.
I want to know about overall, what you think of the coaching playing style for the South African fan, which seems to be coming back to the stadium, to the stadiums now. Live games rather than sitting at home and watching. We've got more numbers at the start of the season than we've had in recent memory. Is it because of a more South African identity in the players? Where we might not like it at times, there might be showboating and so on, but the fans love it.
I think it's also got to do with other teams, like your Pirates, your Chiefs started off very well and winning games, and that generates the interest. You know, you don't just have this one-sided football. I mean, who would want to go watch a team that's going to win every week in and week out? Now you're watching teams like a Pirates, like a Supersport, like a Stellenbosch that can beat the best teams at any given day. And I think that's why fans are now saying, well, we want to come back and watch because it's more competitive. That's the big thing. I don't think it's much to do with just the South African coaching perspective. I think it's because it's become a lot more competitive.
Well, it certainly has become a whole lot more competitive, and the two clubs to speak of that really hit the ground running so far at the start of this season, Orlando Pirates and Mamelodi Sundowns. On the other side of this, we break down what's made this league race between those two so interesting so far this season. Welcome back to Game On now. Interesting story. At the start of this season, the big question was, can anyone catch Mamelodi Sundowns? So far, one club has really done a great job at not only matching Sundowns for entertainment value in ensuring that the fans lock on to whenever they play. They've also given us a few stars. That, of course, is Orlando Pirates. Shane McGregor, who used to stand on the other side of the fence in as far as the Soweto Giants, sits alongside me. And let's talk about Pirates. What they've done to catch up to Sundowns. There was quite a big gap between those two sides and everybody else in Sundowns for years now. But what they've done to not only catch up, but give us stars as well that the average man can talk about daily.
Yeah, you know, I like the way they've gone about it. You know, Rivera has been a very good coach. When he first came here, everyone was doubting him. What I do like at Pirates, they've given him extended time to settle down and get the players and do what he's doing. What's brilliant about him, he's not shy to play the youngsters. He's not shy to bring youngsters into the team. And that's what's been their uplifting so far, is that they're bringing in those youngsters, getting results, they're scoring goals, they're doing well for him. And with that, some of those youngsters have gone to the Bafana team. So, you know, that's what I like. He's not scared to play the players. Other clubs are scared to play youngsters because they're worried about what's going to happen down the line. But he hasn't. I mean, he's built a very good squad. And that's the other thing. It's not just 11 players or 15 or 16 players. He's built a squad. And he knows exactly what happens. You know, they're in Africa, they're playing locally, they're playing in cups, which they're very well known for. You need to have a big squad. And he's done that. He's developed a big squad of good players, of journeymen, as well as youngsters that he's brought in. And he's been brilliant. I take my hat off to him.
Have to talk about Pirates fans as well. The way they responded to Rivera's Pirates side, in that the Orlando Stadium hasn't been the other stadium we used to today in some years. I think the last time I can think of a Pirates team that was had so many young stars was back in the puppy era, when you had Vilagazi, you had Tugutu, you had Gifted Remy, young players then. But since then, I don't think we've had quite the same Pirates until now.
Until now, exactly. And the fans have recognised that.
Those guys didn't win anything.
But the fans have recognised that.
Yeah.
And that's why they're coming back in their droves to watch, because it's exciting football and because they know that they can compete against all the sides they're playing against. So that's been the big thing for me, you know.
Yeah.
Gone are the days when a Pirates-Chiefs game was a sellout.
Yes.
Nowadays, it hasn't been, but it's getting there. And that's what I like. It's getting there slowly. We need a strong Pirates. We need a strong Chiefs to have this league competitive. And Pirates have done their bit. It's up to the other teams to do it themselves.
Playing the Champions League night sometimes on a Friday night, when the Orlando Stadium responds well on a Friday night, with fans respecting the Champions League as well. That's also another big change for them.
It is a big
for
change
us,
for them.
I think, as a community.
It is a big change for them, but it's also, you know what, they're doing it the proper way, I think. It gives the opposition less time to acclimatise, less time to with the travelling and all of that. So it's a very clever, you know, you always got to try and do everything in your favour. And they're very clever in doing that. So it's one day less than you would normally have. So they've done well. But the fans have had the buy-in. And that's the big thing for me. If a fan comes with supporters and you've got supporters behind you, it makes a big difference to the team.
Tell you about some of the big sides on the continent you are likely, even as a fan, when you go to the Cairo International Stadium, you know, you're an away fan. You feel it every minute that you're there, and it's very much a home stadium for those that are at home. And Orlando Pirates has been one of those sort of feelings. And, well, we're back with more on the other side of this in discussing the beautifully South African game. Welcome back to Game On, and we've been talking about sides that are looking to dethrone Mamelodi Sundowns this season, where Sundowns, of course, setting the bar as high as they have over the last, good number of years now. Another side, outside of Orlando Pirates, that's, I think, been a nice surprise package over the last 3 years. Breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Stellenbosch, under Barker, they not only have given us quality, but they've upset things at the top quite impressively.
But also what I like about them, the development of players. They brought through players, they've had players coming in there. But what's been disappointing for me is that they sold some of their star players off. Obviously, money talks. They need the club to keep on running. But for me, that's a big disappointment, because if you keep those star players, especially now when you're in Africa, it makes a big difference. When you play in Africa, people don't realize this. You need a big squad. You can't just have 10, 15, or 15 players, 20 players. You've got to have a very big squad. The traveling kills you. They're coming back. Then you've got to go play league games. So you travel into Africa, come back, travel, say, to Gauteng to come play a game. It takes it out of you. So that's been their little bit of Achilles heel this season, is that, they've sold on players, and also now all they're traveling with Africa and playing in Africa makes a big difference. But they're still holding their heads up high and getting results. I would like to see what happens come the end of the season, exactly where they are. For me, so far this season, they haven't been the same Stellenbosch that they were last year. No. So it's just a matter of getting everything right, keeping the star players, number one, and then number two is you'll always challenge against Sundowns.
I think they'll argue and say, look, maybe lots of players left last year, but when you look at the national team right now, you got Sundowns, you got Pirates, and you got these players there, which is something that's improved for them, of course, when you look at last season. But then you include Sundowns into this conversation. And now I want to ask you, you mentioned Stellies, the travels to Africa and to different parts of the country when they play locally, but how important is it for Sundowns to keep their dominance? How important is it for a side like Sundowns to have their own stadium? I mean, they play either Loftus or the Lucas Motsepe Stadium, where they share with SuperSport United or with the Bulls, but don't have their own home. I mean, you can't think about it. Sundowns with their own stadium, how would that affect things?
It would be a lot better for them, because then they can have a stronghold there. It's all our teams in this country basically don't own their own stadiums,
Well, one venue, I'm saying.
Yeah, but play off one venue, that's a different story, but it's not always available, and that's the big thing. Africa, you've got different rules to the local league. It's all of this, Loftus, they play there sometimes, but there's also rugby play there.
Yeah.
But, Sundowns, the one, going back to the football side, the one good thing for them is the squad that they got, the players that they got. So if they lose one player, they're bringing in basically of similar quality, if not the same, So that makes a big difference. But I agree with you. There were talks that a few clubs were looking to build their own stadium. I know Chiefs were going to build one in Nature Arena. But also it all costs big money, and that's the big thing. Would you rather spend it on the players, bringing new players in, or buy a stadium?
I'll tell you what they've done on the continent to be named alongside the best clubs on the continent, where when they're training, let's say in Uganda, they fill out the stadium just training. Which is something that's mind-blowing from a South African point of view to think about, something we've had to grow used to over the last few years. Well, here it is, Mamelodi Sundowns. It's like when there's an Orlando Pirates playing at Johannesburg Stadium back in the day, but there's Orlando.
Yeah.
It's just
doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense. You know what I mean?
I agree with you. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what Sundowns should look at. Is even if it's a 40,000 stadium, why not? Then it's your own, and then it's your stronghold. Teams will fear going there, but at the moment, moving around makes it a little bit easier for opposition teams. Not that Sundowns are easy.
Certainly not easy as well. I'd implore you to think back some 10, 15, 20 years when Patrice Motsepe took over Sundowns. There was something new in South African football where they even had ads with Bafana Bastille, and it was something fresh. It's something that said to us there's something new coming in the horizon where Bafana Bastille could be looking to take on the continent, and over the years they have. The only thing that's missing is Bafana Bastille with their own home ground. So let's hope they just cap that off and take us to the next step in South African football. Thank you so much for joining us for the first show of 2025. Thank you so much to Shane McGregor. So, hey, hopefully we have a great year in 2025, yeah?
Yeah, I'm sure we will. I'm sure we won't forget about 2024.
And let's not forget about Cherise Kosana as well. Looking forward to having him back on the show. From myself, Susan Mapena, and the rest of the team that is behind the scenes. Click, click.